This year at the Sarasota Hackathon, our idea was we wanted to create a transportation solution to all sort of school issues. So in a little bit of when we were researching, we realized there was such a big problem and such a need for some other solution to transportation besides regular busing for after-school activities, or if you have two parents working, you got to get your kid to and from school. So between extracurricular activities, working parents, we just saw that there are a lot of kids who were beyond the scope of traditional busing issues and that sort of transportation. So we realized that there was potential to, with our app, touch the lives of so many kids that had need for this. And so at the core of that was one of our group members, Ricky, who couldn't make it here today. Ricky actually is from Orlando. And so the way his district worked is that he wasn't going to the best high school in his area, and he really wanted to transfer to another one to really grow as a student. And so he was able to, he had the grades to do it, but one of the problems was he had no transportation. He was outside their busing radius. And so even though he could go to the school, he was kept back just by transportation alone. And so throughout the whole weekend, we worked on this and developed this whole idea for Carma. At its core and center, we were thinking, how can we help students like Ricky? And so that really framed our whole entire mission, which is to provide this reliable, safe, and accessible transportation for all students and any students who would need it. And so in getting into the technology aspect, we imagine this as like a user experience where you would have the students using it, the parents of the students who would, because as we imagine, this is not just for one type of student. We saw it as kindergartners to seniors in high school. And so we have, the parents would be either really integrated into the whole experience, or for the older kids, maybe a little more taken back. And then of course the drivers who are driving them to and from school. And so just a basic idea, when we thought of parents, we thought of it being a very visible experience for them, where they could always know where their kid is when they get to school, when they get out, when they get in the car, when they get out of the car. And then not only that, but be able to have a lot of control over everything that was going on. They could create schedules for their kids so they weren't constantly booking rides for their kids. And so that way, for their entire family, it wouldn't be a hassle to try to get them rides. It was just a smooth, seamless experience. And as a student, going back to the idea that we wanted every student able to use this. So one of our big ideas was comfort, that a kindergartner or a second grader would be able to use this app just as easily as a senior in high school. So we thought of it almost as similar to an Uber experience, except a little more kid-oriented, where we'd have pictures of the cars. So that way, even if they didn't understand what Honda Odyssey was, they'd see a cute little picture of it and know, hey, that's my ride. And so not only would the student feel safe, but then their parents feel safe that their kid's getting where they need to be. And then, of course, we have the driver experience finally. And the main focus when we looked at drivers was transparency, where we wanted to make sure that whoever would be driving these kids to and from school, that they would be people that the parents would feel safe driving their kids. And so one of our biggest ideas was to partner with school districts and take the same frameworks they already have, like Sarasota PALS, for getting volunteers to drive. So that way, the same sort of parents you would already have driving your kids to extracurricular activities or field trips or any other school function would be the parents that would be driving for Carma. And we thought that, one of the big issues too is that if a child needs a ride, there'd be a ride available. And so to sort of incentivize drivers, we had this idea of not only partnering with the schools, but partnering with local businesses. And so as they would drive, instead of getting paid, they would get a point, and then those could be used towards coupons and discounts at local businesses. So it's almost a full community experience. And then another issue we saw with introducing this was that people had to hear about it, and so not only partnering with schools, but school-based organizations like the parent-teacher associations, and then all sorts of mentoring programs like the Boys and Girls Club. So that way, any student who would need this would have access to it. And looking at the finances, I originally thought that this seemed pretty modest, but I obviously have no idea how the real business world works. So when I saw $172,000 at the end, I thought that was great, like really cheap. And then when I pitched this in front of the whole audience, and I said, this is easily attainable by no donations, there was a few modest laughs there. So I would say that would be easily accessible, but apparently I would say it's more not impossible. and especially when we looked at our monthly infrastructure costs will only be around $500, that would be the sort of thing that wouldn't be the most difficult program to keep running in different schools to make sure that students would always have access to this program to get them anywhere they need to be. Everyone wants good karma.